It's another day, and we're doing another motorcycle upgrade. I would say this is not necessarily maintenance. We're doing another upgrade. Today, we are addressing my chain and sprockets. We're going to be changing this rear sprocket here. We're going to be changing this chain here. And we're going to be changing that front drive sprocket right under that cover right there. Yesterday I was out doing my fork springs up in the front there, and that took all day. I was out here for 5 hours doing that job, and it was starting to get really hot at the end. I was getting hungry, dehydrated. It wasn't good. So we're gonna try to get this one done quicker today. Yeah, let me walk you through my tools real quick. So here's all my tools. I'll start with the upgrade itself. We're going to a gold chain, because why not? We're doing the rear sprocket. This is, let's see, what is this? A 42 tooth sprocket, I think it says right there. Yeah, 42. Right there. 42 tooth sprocket. The stock one is 43, if I remember correctly. So we're doing a slightly smaller sprocket in the rear that should gear up the bike, so it will be able to go slightly faster at the same rev range. We're also doing a 16 tooth front drive sprocket. The stock one is 15 teeth, so this one's going slightly larger. That should further improve the speed at each level of the rev range. Yeah, we're also going to be putting a Eagle Manufacturing prevailing torque nut on the front sprocket. I forget exactly what the improvement is that you get with this prevailing torque nut. I think it just more reliably holds the front sprocket on. I want to say something like the stock one is maybe like commonly falls off. I don't totally remember. We've also got 2 master links here. I bought one master link thinking that the chain on Rocky Mountain ATV, I think the website's called. I bought a extra master link thinking that the chain wouldn't come with them. The chain came with a master link, so if you're buying it yourself, you do not have to buy a separate master link. What else do we got? We got a chain breaker, so I can get the current one off. We've got some cotter pins because I will be removing the rear wheel, and on the other side there, that crown nut has a cotter pin in it. I'm going to be putting a new one in. Probably also going to put a new cotter pin in the front. I was looking at it when I was changing the fork springs yesterday, and it looked pretty rusty up there. What else do we got? We got our jack stand. I'll be putting that up pretty soon. We've got a clamp there, a pretty big clamp, and that is going to hold the rear brake when I am taking this front sprocket off so that the rear wheel doesn't spin. We've got a breaker bar that's going to take the front sprocket off. We've got 2 torque wrenches. We've got a 20 to 100 pound foot torque wrench, and we've got a 100 to 250 pound torque wrench. I want to say that one will torque down the front drive sprocket, and it will be going to maybe 144 foot-pounds. Don't take my word for that. I'm going to double check later. And then the smaller torque wrench is to torque down each of these rear drive sprocket nuts. What else? We've got a ratchet and socket set there. We'll be using various sockets throughout this job. We've got a 27 millimeter socket that will be used to take off the stock front sprocket. And then this 30 millimeter socket is for this new prevailing torque nut. This is a 30 millimeter. Oh, it looks like 72 foot-pounds. Okay. Yeah, I'll be checking. I may not have needed that 100 to 250 torque wrench for this specific job. I'll keep you updated as we go along. I've got a hammer and a punch in order to punch down the washer behind that nut on the front sprocket. I've got a longer ratchet in case we need it. Set of metric wrenches. We've got a vise and electrical tape, and those will be used to push in the master link when we get to that part. I've got a set of needle nose pliers. That's for the master link as well, to get in the clip. Just got a parts tray, and we've got a random extension here, and then some other various little tools in case we need them. I'm not sure that I'll need any of those. I've also got some gear oil that I may be using to oil up the chain, lube up the chain after we've put it on, though I may not need it. We'll see if it is indeed lubed. I'll look up what I'm supposed to do with that, but I think that's about everything. I'm gonna get my bike jacked up. We're gonna take the I forget what that's called. I'm blanking on the name, but we're gonna take that little pan off. There's 3 10 millimeter bolts holding it on, and then we will jack up the bike. All right, we've got the bike jacked up. Got the back wheel off the ground a little bit. Next, we'll be taking this cover off. It's got 1, 2, 3 maybe. No, I think it's this one and those two, something like that. It's got a few 10 millimeter bolts, and this is extremely dirty, so I'm gonna be wiping all this up as well as I go along. Okay, we got this cover taken off. It's now much cleaner than it was. Probably went through like 2 or 3 different paper towels trying to get all the gunk off this. But this is what our front drive sprocket looks like. The 3 10 millimeter bolts were these 2 right here, and that one up top that held the cover on. I also noticed that my gear lever is pretty loose, so during this job I'm going to take it off with this. I'll clean it up, and then I will get it tightened back down, and I'll probably try to figure out if this is the right position for my foot, or whether I should lower it or raise it a little bit. Next up though, we're going to be taking this washer here and using a punch and a hammer to punch this down, get it flat, and then we will be taking our 27 millimeter socket and our breaker bar and going at this. And I will also be putting the bike in gear, and I will be using this clamp to hold down the rear brake lever up there, just to make sure that the engine cannot spin at all while I am trying to take this nut off. All right, onward. All right, well, this is kind of ridiculous. So I put my clamp on the rear brake, took out my breaker bar and my 27 millimeter and tried to loosen this, and it is not even tight. I don't think it was even finger tight on here. That is, it's awful. Oh my gosh. I've been driving on this for a year. That's insane. I don't even know how it stayed on there. Again, in case it needs to be said, I'm not a mechanic. I'm a new motorcyclist, and yeah, that's insane. Yeah, over the next month or so, I'm going to be revamping like this whole bike, so we'll be remedying any issues like that. I can't believe that. It was not even finger tight on there. All right, well, we're taking this nut off here. We're throwing it in the garbage, and then we're gonna take this washer and I'm gonna flatten this out a little bit. And then when we end up putting our prevailing torque nut on, this guy, when we end up putting that back on here after changing the sprocket, we are going to flatten down only one side. Like, we'll just flatten down this little bit right here, and that's sort of meant to act as another lock. Although, no, I think the prevailing torque nut makes that redundant, essentially. Or not redundant, unnecessary. I think this will lock the sprocket in place, so this will just be acting as a sort of spacer. So I'll flatten it down a little bit anyway. But what's next? Next, we are going to be taking off the rear. No. We will be loosening. We'll be loosening the tension on our chain. I'm actually not totally sure what's next. I'm going to refer to a video that I will be linking it in the description to see what the next step is, and then you'll join me after. All right, so our next step will be breaking the chain off, actually. So I will be using this chain breaker tool, and we will line it up right about here on the chain. Right, it's got a little needle that it uses to push, and we'll be lining that needle up with one of these links right here. And then we'll be using, I think, a 14mm socket or wrench to tighten the larger thing on to hold it on the chain, and then we'll be using a 14mm to punch out the linkage. All right, let's get that done. Okay, we've got it tightened down over that linkage, and now we're just going to be tightening down further and further on this until it pops out. And there's our chain linkage and our broken chain. Very nice, very nice. My chain was extraordinarily dirty. I've not been taking the greatest care of my bike over the past few months. That's changing. All right, now we're gonna feed this chain through and get it taken off so that we can take our sprocket off and get our new 16-tooth sprocket put on. And then we'll be dealing with the rear wheel. So we'll be taking the rear wheel off. We'll be taking all these nuts off of the sprocket, putting our new sprocket on, torquing them all down. I'll bring you along with me. We are just running into blunder after blunder here with this. So this sprocket, which, let's see if it is actually smaller. Yep, here's our 16-tooth new one. This almost looks like 14 teeth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. No, that's 15. This old sprocket, which you can see the teeth are starting to go over on themselves. They're starting to get bent by the chain. this was on here like this, and it should have been installed with this thick spot like that. So I think this is an aftermarket sprocket, and it was installed improperly. When I put this one on, this new sprocket, it's gonna go this side out, so it'll go on like that. But I'm gonna clean up everything in here first, and before I put that on, I'll probably also take my shift lever off, get that cleaned up, and get it tightened down. All right, let's keep going. Now that is looking much better. Oh my goodness. I took my lever off, cleaned it out, repositioned it a little bit lower because I feel like the lever has been a little bit too high for my preference. Yeah, I got this much cleaner. There's still a good bit of dirt back there, but I can live with that for now. Let's put on our new sprocket. 16 teeth. This larger side is going toward us. So let's just fit it on there. Okay. Then we're placing this washer back on, and this will just act as a sort of spacer for our chain, or for the nut, and that's sitting on there nice and flush. And my phone battery is getting low, so I'm not going to record as much as I wanted to, so I'll do more in between takes, or in between shots, and just film the results. So let's go on to the next step. Okay, a lot has taken place since the last time I took a video. I'll walk you through what I did. So I put on this prevailing torque nut and just got it slightly tight down with a ratchet. I'm going to torque it down later after I get the chain on. But I got that. I had to clean the threads a little bit to allow it to screw on well. Then my next task is to take off the rear wheel, which is what that crown nut is right there. That was right here, and it was a bit of a hassle to get it off, to say the least. So I didn't have either of the correct sockets to take this off. This was a 24mm socket, and the bit on the other side of the axle is a 19mm socket, so I had to go inside and get both of those. And then before that I tried using a 24mm wrench over there, but my wrenches, I don't know if it was because they are slightly lower quality, but it ended up stripping the crown nut a little bit. I'll show you. So it ended up stripping this right here. And so in order to get my 24mm socket on, I had to hammer it in, and then I ended up using a breaker bar with a 19mm socket, sort of positioned like this on this other side of the axle, and that was just resting on the ground there so that I could get some leverage and use a long ratchet on the crown nut. I do not have any impact wrenches or anything like that, unfortunately. That would have made this a lot easier, but we got it off. Then it was stuck inside the socket, so I had to use one of these to sort of pop the crown nut out of the socket. That's a bit annoying, but we got it done. Next, we're gonna be popping the axle out, and then we'll be taking the wheel off, and that will be that. Also, I got a little wireless charger, so now I can take more video. On to the next. I've got my wheel off, and along with my sprocket, I'm also going to be changing the rubber stopper. I got this one off of Eagle Mike. I'll put a link to it in the description. I'm also going to be cleaning and re-greasing my axles with some axle grease. So I think to get the nuts off of there, what's going to be easiest is if I put the rubber stopper in there and then put this back in and then wrench on them like that. Alright, let's do it. Alright, I just put my new rubber stopper in. That's what this thing is, going all the way around. And now we're going to put our hub back down. Put that down in there. And now we're going to take our nuts. These are 12 millimeter, by the way. Go on our sprocket. Gonna take our new sprocket. It looks like it can go on either way. I'm gonna put it on this way since these labels are facing this direction. And we're just going to lay it down. Now I will need to check that video that I've been referencing again to see what the torque is for each of these nuts. But I do know that you should put them down in a start pattern. So once I get these all finger tight, then I will be grabbing my torque wrench and torquing each of these down in a star pattern, meaning I will go this one, and this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and then that one. And that makes sure that the sprocket is tightened down uniformly and will not warp too much as a result of tightening it. And I will show you the result after and tell you which value I torqued them down to. Alright, so a good bit of time has passed since I last shot something. I ended up cleaning this and the other side. Whew, I'm tired. It's been a long day so far. I think it is. Yeah, it's about 4:30. Another thing I wanted to point out was that this freaking stud snapped off when I was torquing the bolts down. These were all torqued down to 24 pound-feet, and that stud would not take it. So pretty soon, since I've got this bend here in my rim, I might buy a new rim and get a new hub at the same time. Something more sturdy. That's crazy. It wouldn't even take the specified torque value, but I think the last thing to do is feed the chain through, get the master link put in, and then tension down the chain using these chain tensioners on either side of the swing arm. I'm getting really tired. It's like 4:30. It's gonna be another 4-hour job, so I may not shoot too many more updates, and we'll probably end up just shooting a little summary inside my room after I'm done. But yeah, let's finish this up. Okay, finally got my chain on. was getting this master link on was very challenging. What I ended up doing was using my chain breaker and just putting the middle punch right in the middle, right here on this master link, and just cranking down on it, and it was able to compress it enough so that I could get this little clip on. All right, now I'm going to adjust the position of my rear wheel in order to tension my chain properly. It's way too loose right now. Not exactly sure how much I need, but I will look it up and get back to you. Okay, I saw that the recommended tension was 50 millimeters. That is about 2 inches. The recommended actual was 50 to 60, but people recommended doing 50 so that as the chain degrades, it stays within spec range. So, long job again. The last things to do are to torque down this prevailing torque nut, to torque down my crown nut on the other side of the axle, and then to put the cover back on and that skid plate back on right there. And then I think that we will be done, and I'll check in again inside my room to give a little summary. Oh man, I think it's been 4.5 hours or so at this point. Crazy. And we're done. We are done. I ended up torquing this prevailing torque nut down to 72 foot-pounds as said in Eagle Mike's instructions. Got the cover back on there. It looks so much cleaner. That's awesome. I'll bring it around. I also torqued this axle nut down to 69 foot-pounds. Got a new cotter pin in there. And then, yeah, the only real complication is this guy right here. I think that before I get a new rim and a new hub, I will avoid going on trails because I do not want to put too much force on that. I'll also avoid like accelerating really quickly and all that. Yeah, I don't want to put too much force on that rear hub if it's missing a nut and I don't even know what it's called. I can't think right now. I haven't eaten all day. It's probably about 5 o'clock, maybe 6. It's taking 4 or 5 hours. I'm done. I'm gonna test drive this tomorrow. Whew. Long job again. Let's get all this stuff inside.